Welcome, friends. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah. I lead email and community at Growclass. So you've probably seen me in your inbox before. If not, hello. It is nice to meet you. If you're not familiar with Growclass, we are a 6-week growth marketing course and community filled with founders, marketers, and freelancers. We teach folks the skills they need to grow their careers and their businesses. But today I'm really excited to learn about the 5 P's of productivity, how to get anything done with Georgie-Ann Getton. So Georgie-Ann is a Jamaican-born NYC-based mom of 2, an entrepreneur and an educator. She teaches about entrepreneurship, money management, and self-improvement through courses, books, blogging, and YouTube. Georgie-Ann believes that we all have the ability to amplify ourselves and reclaim our lives by leveraging systems and tools the correct way. And she's here to help you do that all today. So I'll be dropping Georgie-Ann's links in the chat for you. If you have any questions, we do have time for a Q&A at the end and a bit throughout, so feel free to unmute yourself. You can use the hand up emoji. You can drop your questions in the chat. You can also send me a private message if you're feeling a little bit shy, and I'll ask the question on your behalf. Just a reminder that there's no such thing as dumb questions. We're all here to learn, and this is a judgment-free zone. So as long as we keep it kind and respectful, we'll be all right. With that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Georgie-Ann so we can learn the 5 P's of productivity. Thank you for joining us today, Georgie-Ann.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Hannah. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm excited to lead this workshop because I truly believe the ins and out of productivity. And I know it's a double-edged sword where if you're too productive, you could burn out. But if you are not productive enough, you get nothing done. So I've built this framework to get us into the middle, right? So we could get more done, not just in business, but also in our personal life and the everyday things that we need to do. So this is going to be maybe like 30 to 35 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions. While I'm going through the workshop, as you think of questions, please, definitely put them into the chat because I want to get to as many questions as possible. And maybe even you have something that you're trying to be more productive with, and we could do like a real life application in this workshop as well. All right, so let's dive in. So I want to start us off with a quote. Don't wait for life to force you to make a change. Make that change consciously and on your own time. As we saw over the last 5 years, I think more than ever before, right, we are not in control of as much as we thought we were, whether it's a global pandemic, monkeypox, elections, there are so many things that are beyond our control. And we were forced to make decisions that we thought we would have never made. And so what I want us to get ahead of is being more preventative, right? Thinking ahead of time, like what can we do to make a decision before we are forced into that decision? And we oftentimes see signs, right? There's small things and we're just like, I'm just gonna ignore that. Or gut feelings, or you're realizing like this is becoming a lot, but I'm just gonna push through, push through, push through. And while having that resilience and being persistent is important, like anything else, it's important and valuable in moderation, right? If you wait too long for too many things, then everything will come crumbling down. So when you can, right, make the change ahead of time, consciously, with you being in control of it before other forces come in and you are no longer in control. So what we're going to go over today is removing some misconceptions about your resources. When it comes to productivity, a lot of people have more resources than they think they do, whether it's time, money, or energy. So those are like the top 3 resources I like to focus on: time, money, and energy. And we might think, oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy, but you have more than you think you do. And if you organize it in the right way, you could double it and create more. So we're going to talk about how to do that, how to better manage your time, how to increase your daily productivity, and develop the GSD mindset, which is the get shit done mindset. How can I get more done and really accomplish these goals in a way that is healthy for me? Because we can get a lot of stuff done, but will it be healthy for me? Will it really make me feel fulfilled and my time feel valued and properly invested? So this is about to be good, as Steve Harvey would say. So I like to, keep it fun, keep it light, and just keep it really open when I do these type of workshops. A little bit of my background. I know Hannah introduced me earlier, but like she said, I'm an author and speaker. I have 2 amazing kids. They're a lot bigger than this picture, so I probably should update it. They're 12 and 6 now. I've been an entrepreneur, and I like to call myself an execution expert. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 10 plus years, straight out of high school. And actually even in high school, I had a business, and I've had many businesses such as a moving company selling digital products, a tech company, an education company, and right now I do consulting and tech advisement, as well as workshops and talks like these. So, a lot of different places, a lot of different spaces, but it's all been about how can I grow, how can I learn more, how can I develop myself and others around me. And with the work that I did, people kept asking, like, how are you getting stuff done? How are you so productive? How are you able to manage school, kids, work, family, all these things? And for many years, I would say, I don't know, I just do it. And I was like, okay, that's not a good enough answer anymore. I have to sit down and are there things that are patterns? Are there systems that I've built and tools that I've been using? And the answer was yes. And so when I sat down and looked at what worked, how it worked, and what was the flow, because I realized it was just kind of a repeat in my head, my subconscious, it was this clear system, and I had to bring it to my conscious mind. And when I sat down and really evaluated what that system was, it came out to these 5 P's, which is purpose, plan, produce, profit, play. And I repeat this system, this framework over and over and over again in almost everything that I've ever done. And no matter if it was for starting a business, helping my kids with something, helping family members, going back to school. I'm now doubling down on being a content creator. So that's been pretty fun. And I've used this same process to accomplish really small things and really huge things. And so I'm going to break down this process piece by piece. So let's start with purpose, right? Finding your purpose. So I'm going to now share some questions that I use to help me figure out what is the purpose of the thing that I'm trying to do. So whatever that thing is. So let's say we have thing, right? What is the purpose? And here are some guiding questions. Why do I want to do this, right? You want to start with that. Why do I want to do this? Because there's oftentimes things that people recommend for us to do, suggest for us to do, and we're just doing it because somebody else really wants it. But what's in it for you? And even when you're doing something that's selfless, like let's say you're trying to volunteer to feed the homeless. You're volunteering at a homeless shelter, right? Somebody might look at that and say, oh, you're just helping other people. But no, there's something in it for you. And that's not a bad thing, right? We are humans and we are driven by, self, and we want to fulfill ourselves. So while you are doing something that might be seen as a selfless act by feeding, supporting and working at a homeless shelter on, for free, volunteering your time, what's in it for you is that it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. You're able to give back. You're a part of the community. So while you are helping others, you are also helping yourself. And I honestly believe in every single thing that we do, we should get something out of it. It may not be always tangible. And towards the end, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it allows us to fully show up. Because if you are doing it just for the other person, that unfortunately builds up resentment deep down. It starts making you feel like, oh man, like, does this person truly deserve my support? Like you start getting into your head a lot. But if you have even something so small that is for you within whatever act you're doing, then you will truly feel good and feel accomplished at the end of that. That is helping your mental state, helping you truly show up each time and do a great job and do your best every single time. So why do I want to do this? What's in it for me? How will this fit into my life, right? So sometimes there are things that come onto our plate and it might be a great thing for us, amazing thing for us, but is it the right thing for us right now? That's the real question you need to ask yourself. And oftentimes we say yes to things too soon, too late, and very few times we say it at the right time. So think about this question. How will this fit into my life? Am I going to have to move around too much? Am I going to have to say no to other things? Do I want to say no to those other things, right? So this is the key question to ask yourself. The next question, is this the right time to do this thing? So that ties into how will it fit into my life? Is this the right time? Because sometimes, again, it can be the right thing, but not the right time. And opportunities come on your plate like this all the time. And this quote has been said many times. And recently, I think Cheryl Lee Ralph, I think it was like a year or two ago in one of the award ceremonies, she said, what's for you cannot not come to you, or like not be on for you or something of that nature. But essentially, it comes down to whatever opportunities are meant for you in your life will come to you. Like you're never going to miss out on something. So while you might feel in the moment like, oh my God, if I don't take advantage of this, it's never going to come back. That's not true. If you are who you are and you keep doing the work and you keep showing up, whatever is meant for you will find you. And that is a fact. And I am an advocate for this because I've seen it time and time again. And we've seen it in, media stories where the person that was an entrepreneur or, in corporate earlier on in their career, something happened, life went wild. 30 years later, that's when they become a millionaire, become a billionaire, and have this huge amount of success because it was always meant for them. It was just not at that time. So is this the right thing to do? Is this the right time to do the thing? And then lastly, is this right for me, right? You might be a person that can do the thing, but should you do the thing? That is the big question there. Should you do the thing? And that will also help us in delegation, right? A part of productivity is delegation, and we're going to talk about that in the production part of the framework. But is this right for me? And if the answer is no, that is totally okay. Again, the opportunities that are for you cannot miss you. They're never going to miss you. They might not come in the time that you want them to, but they're not going to miss you. So ask yourself, is this right for me? Is this the right thing for me to be doing? Or is this something that somebody else should be doing? I can do this, but should I really do this? Do I need to do this? Is this the right time for me to do this? Is this the right thing for me to do? So just ask, so these are some prompting questions, but you want to get to the core of what is your purpose in this thing, and attaching your values, your true deeper beliefs to that thing, so that way you have a stake in the game, right? Developing your purpose around whatever you want to do allows you to have a commitment, something locked in for you, by you, without all the external factors, because we can't control the external factors, but we can control how we feel about it, how we think about it, how we interact with it. So that allows us to own the power of how we show up for this activity, this business, this new pursuit, whatever we want to work on. That allows you to show up fully in yourself, right? So that is purpose, right? Now we're going to move on to plan. If you haven't yet, take out your notebook. The purpose part is more a little, belief based, a little bit, high level. Now we're going to get into the tactical stuff. Always have a plan. I cannot stress this enough. And I say always have a plan, but I know that plans have to change sometime. This quote I came across many years ago. I think I was like in middle school when I came across this. Actually, I remember now. I was in elementary, middle school, and it was my karate teacher. They would always tell us, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. At karate class, this is what they told us. If you fit, and this was more than 15, almost probably, is it 20, maybe 20 years ago now. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this quote they told us in regards to planning how we're going to show up in a fight, right? In a karate sparring fight. And you're a kid, you're not thinking too heavily about it, but this has been so critical to my life as a young adult, now an adult. And it's key because what happens if you don't have a plan is that you don't know what to do in case things don't work. So when your plan, and I'll go to the next slide, right? To ask you a little pop quiz before I talk about what happens if your plan doesn't work. How many words a day do you need to finish writing your book? So if anybody's working on a book, do you know that number? What services or suppliers will you need to source for your business? If you have a business idea, if you already are in business, do you know this information? Do you have a plan and action for that? How long will each of your podcast episodes be? A lot of people have podcasts. Are you planning how long they should be? Or you're just like, oh, we're going to get on the mic and whatever happens, happens, right? When you do that, you then feel overwhelmed. Should it be 30 minutes? Should it be 15 minutes? Should it be 45 minutes? Should it be an hour, right? You get super overwhelmed when you don't have a foundational plan. And no one's saying that you can't adjust the plan, pivot, add on to it, subtract from it, but having a plan gives you that foundation, something to work with. So while things can change unexpectedly, like global pandemics, right? Having a plan brings you peace of mind. So if you divert from the plan, at least you can look back at it and say, hey, these 3 things worked. Let's remove that 4th thing from the plan and adjust it accordingly. But if you have no source to go back to, you're going to keep on just going like this, going in circles, and not realizing when you've accomplished something, when you've done something, or maybe when something works, right? And so if you don't have a plan, you're not able to recognize when something is not working, and then you might keep doing that thing. And then the second thing is you might not recognize when something is working for you to double down and lock in on that thing either. So have a clear plan. Again, your plan might change, it might be adjusted, it might be updated. Another word we use in business a lot is might have to pivot from that plan, but having that plan is used as your North Star. This is the direction that we're going. This is what we're aiming for. And even though and with a plan, it might take different paths, right? There's many paths to the same end destination, but having a plan allows you to kind of look back at the map and say, hey, okay, here is where I am. Here's where I started. Here's where I am. I was trying to go on this path, but oh, a new path presented itself. And now I could adjust, pivot, update the plan, and go on that new path, but get to the same end destination. Some resources that I highly recommend for when you're planning is an online calendar. I tell all my friends and they laugh at me all the time. Every time I say that, I'm like, and if it's not on my calendar, I'm not showing up. And they're like, but it's just, dinner. I'm like, yeah, you want me there, right? Send me a calendar invite. And this is so important because as busy professionals, especially with the future of work, whether it's future of work, so many people have one or two positions for jobs, or they have a job and they have a side hustle or a whole other company for themselves. So you have different calendars that you have to cross-reference. And if you're checking 10 to 15 calendars at one time, that could be overwhelming. Sync up, have an online calendar, sync them all up so that way you could look at one thing and say, when am I truly available, right? So that way you have a clear view of your time. You cannot make any more time. This is all the time that we've got. But in order to truly find time to do the things that you want to do, you have to have a clear view of what is happening and where the gaps are and where you could move things around and shuffle things around. Without having that, life can get a lot messy. And I'm not saying, impromptu things are not possible or you shouldn't be open to those. But when you have a clear calendar, a clear plan, then you can say, oh, yes, I am truly available from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. for that family dinner, put it on my calendar. That means no client could book in that time. No other thing could pop up randomly, pop up with, somebody scheduling on my meeting link or whatever, right? And so I tell folks when I have my calendar, this allows me to fully be present in whatever activity that I need to be showing up for at that specific date and time. It's not saying that I can't do other things or I'm not a flexible person. It's just that I want to show up for the things that are important to me and I want to fully be present in that moment. So having that online calendar is key. I also like to have a physical calendar. Sometimes, put it on the wall, put it on your desk so you could like visually see it more often. Journals and planners, right? I have about 20 of these all around my house, notebooks of all shapes and sizes, and I will jot things down. It's just quick, right? Having a plan, and you could type it up if you want, docs, notes, all these different apps. Plan as far as you can, right? You can always change or edit the plan later, but plan as far as you can. And don't feel like don't look at your plan as something that constrains you, because oftentimes people are like, I want to be flexible, I just want to go with the flow. Yes, and having a plan allows you room to go with the flow. It allows you time to create and be more creative because you know what are the things that are locked in, and then you are aware of where you have wiggle room, where you have flexibility. Because not having a plan, then you might miss things, you might miss opportunities, you might not show up for a meeting on time, you might double book, right? Put it in the chat. Have you ever been double booked and you're just like, who do I cancel on now, right? And that's not a fair thing for you. It's overwhelming, it's stressful, it gives you a headache. Or you completely missed the meeting. Oh, snap it, I didn't put it on my calendar, right? Why aren't you at the birthday party, right? All these things. If it's important to you, make a plan around it and document it as best as you can. Now we're going to move on to produce. So this is getting into production mode. Like, how do you actually do the work and get these things done? So first up, you got to do one thing at a time. And I'm like, but you're probably like, but Georgie, we don't have all the time. I'm limited on time. How am I going to do one thing at a time? Multitasking is my thing. Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and I hope nobody's feelings is hurt. Multitasking is a lie. Doesn't exist. Not a real thing. And as a recovering multitasker myself that thought it was a real thing, Once I understood why it wasn't a real thing, I was like, oh, that makes sense. You're right. So oftentimes, we want to be, super multitasker doing many things. But what it really looks like when you're doing many things is that you are splitting your resources, whether that's time, energy, focus, or money. You're splitting your resources amongst many different things. And what you want to do instead of multitasking is do one thing at a time. So I have a visual here. So when we're multitasking, let's say we have 100%, whatever that thing is, let's say time. We have 100% of time, let's say it's 2 hours. In that 2 hours, when we are multitasking, we're doing task 1, task 2, task 3. So none of the tasks get to a point of completion. None of the tasks get to a point of done. And then now it's very overwhelming to, you actually, let me ask you all a question. What's more overwhelming, to have 3 things in progress or 1 thing that's done? Right? Which thing is overwhelming? And you can put it in the chat. And so I'm going to say having 3 things in progress, to now when you move on to the next day, now you have 3 things in progress and then a whole other list of things to do. But if you focus in on the one thing, actually one thing has multiple layers to it. So if you do one thing, right, you have to break it down. So this is how we get to the point of completion. And I'm not a perfect person. I like to get to done, not perfect. Because there's always room to update, right? That's where we go back to our plan. Always room to update, make adjustments. What version iPhone are we on? What is this? I think we're up to what, 15? Is it 15? And who knows how many other versions? What version iOS? What version Facebook? Version 1 did not look pretty. If we were to pull out version 1 today in 2024, we would be like, what is this? And why are you trying to force us to use this? So when you're doing one thing, you're actually already having layers to it. So if you have your main task, right? So let's say workshop. So I'm doing this workshop. That's going to be my example. We're going to do, the one thing I'm doing is this workshop. So while I have to show up at a specific time and be at a specific place, which is in my calendar for this workshop, the subtask of that is making sure my lighting is good, making sure my camera is good, my Wi-Fi is set up, I have a mic, I have a nice shirt on, right? So, my deck is completed. So while it's one thing, being at the Growclass workshop, it is multiple subtasks. And when I tick off each of those tasks and then I show up, do the workshop, now that thing is completely off my list and I don't have to use any mental space to say, oh, I got to remember to do that thing. And while we think that is such a small, feature on our minds, like, oh, I have to remember to pick up the groceries, or I have to remember to put this thing on the grocery list, right? That's a big one. I am still working on that one. If you just do it, now you free up that mental space. You might think, oh, it's not even a lot. I'm just putting it at the back of my head. No, your brain doesn't work that way. It's going to keep bringing that thing, circling it around, right? Redelivering that. If you've ever gotten a package and you missed the delivery, it's going to keep redelivering it until you acknowledge it and do something about it. So you have 2 options: acknowledge it and do something about it, or you completely forget. Now you're at the grocery store and you told yourself 7 times this week to remember to get ketchup. You go into the grocery store and you leave without ketchup, right? So if you had just put it into your journal, put it into your notebook, or you broken it down, right? The one thing, I gotta go grocery shopping, put it on a list. These are all the things I have to get when I do grocery shopping. Bring the list with you. Grocery shopping done. No need to think about ketchup, because now instead of thinking about ketchup for 7 days, now you're thinking about ketchup for 2 weeks because you went to the grocery store and you forgot to get the ketchup, and now you got to keep ketchup in the back of your head for another 2 weeks. So my point is, when you're doing one thing, don't think it's not gonna get you to your goal. It gets the things off your list faster. So you get to the point of done with that one thing, and then you move on to the next thing and breaking it down by main task, subtask, and micro task. And the little example I gave here is like, let's say you want to add a product to your store, right? You have to source the product, which a micro task of that is calling a supplier, ordering inventory. Then you have to create this product SKU. You have to price the product, take product imagery. So while we might think, oh, I only got one thing on my task list, you have many subtasks and micro tasks associated with it. And to get a better quality of done, right? Focus on the one thing, break it down as small as possible so that way you could do as many pieces that you are consciously aware of. And so that way it's a better quality of done. So again, perfection doesn't exist, but I want you to get to the best quality of done possible. A book that helped me, I'm a very huge reader and I love getting data and statistics. So this book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, was super helpful to make me believe in the whole one thing method. Because before that, I'm like, no, 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 I'm a multitasker. I would put it on the resume. I would put it on my LinkedIn. Like, I am a multitasker. That is my top skill. And since I adjusted it to this format of really, again, one thing, subtasks, microtasks, etc., I've been able to accomplish a lot more and be more productive with my days and have a higher quality of when I'm actually done the thing. Next, a part of produce, you have to set your goals, right? Set goals, but not in concrete. I saw this on like some poster somewhere, but I was like, oh, I like that. Set your goals, but not in concrete. Because sometimes your goals have to change. And within that, you want to make SMART goals. So you probably have heard of this before, right? But it is super helpful to keep this model at the front of your head, right? Having SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And it's, again, set your goals, but not in concrete. So the time might change. Once you start doing the goal, you realize, oh, this is going to take me longer than I actually thought it was. And then now you are aware of that. So now instead of setting only an hour aside, maybe next time I should set 2 hours aside, right? If you're super specific, you know when you've achieved that goal, right? What does achievement looks like, right? So have it be specific and then you could achieve it. And then you can measure, did it work out well? Was it beneficial for me to do this? Should I never ever do this again? And is it relevant to the long-term goals that I want to accomplish? Next thing is you want to work smarter, right? So now we're in the production phase. Your resources are limited. And I already told you that from the beginning. You got limited time, energy, money, and even focus. So how can you execute your plan efficiently? Well, one thing you could do is automate tasks. We have so many different automation tools, AI tools these days, and it can be very, very overwhelming. Do I use ChatGPT or do I use Gemini or do I use Copilot? Do I, a lot of these apps, Adobe PDF are offering you AI, and it's like, do I need this? Do I not need this? And it can be, again, a lot to think about. So what I recommend is automating or using AI for small things and then testing it out, right? Testing out what you're comfortable with. Like, okay, I want the AI for, Canva, design suggestions, but I don't need it for when I'm writing an essay. I don't need it for when I am sending an email, right? So figuring out how you best work with it, but some things I highly recommend to automate to give you some time back into your day if you're doing any of these things is one, social media posts. There are so many tools that are free as well as low price that you could get to set up on social media to schedule, videos or written. So almost every social media platform nowadays has an embedded scheduling tool. So I'll talk about LinkedIn real quick. So on LinkedIn, you could schedule posts. So you could write, a week worth of posts, schedule them out, have them go out, you come in, you engage. And now instead of spending, let's say, an hour or 2 hours a day typing up and putting in the post on LinkedIn and scheduling it, not scheduling it, like putting it out live, you could spend maybe an hour, 90 minutes on a different day, write out 7 days or 5 days worth of posts, schedule all of them, and now maybe you're only coming in 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day to respond and engage with people commenting on that post that you scheduled, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, whatever it might be, however far you want to schedule out. Next thing is email communications. I am a night owl. I love to work in the nighttime. Is that helpful for my clients? No, and I realized that the hard way when I would send emails whenever I wrote them, and then people would reply to the emails at 2 a.m. and expect me to reply back to that 2 a.m. email. Big problem. So what I started to do is I will write my emails, draft all the things, and hit that lovely schedule send button. So that way you're getting the email at 8 a.m. or 1 p.m. or 3 days from now, a month from now. And again, that what it does for me and what it can do for you is remove the mental space of thinking about, oh, I got to send this email to so-and-so tomorrow. If you have the moment, do it right now, schedule it. So it will send tomorrow, but you don't have to now have that mental capacity, that mental mind space taken up by remembering to do something because you've already done it and it's going to automate and execute on itself. The next thing is booking meetings. I personally have about 8 calendars that I have to work across. And if I had to double check each calendar every time that I needed to schedule a meeting, I would just opt out completely of meetings. So I use a tool, I use Calendly in order to sync up all my calendars. And then when someone wants to book a meeting with me or consultation, a catch-up call even, I'm like, hey, here's this one link that will look through all the available times that I have and then let you know when I'm truly available. So that goes back into having that plan, right? Having those calendars set up in a keen way, so that way I don't double book, because that was another thing. If I have my side hustle calendar says one set of times, and then my business calendar says one set of time, I might forget to look at my side hustle calendar, schedule something for 2 p.m., and now I have 3 meetings at 2 p.m. Who do you cancel on? When you do that, right, if you don't do it the proper way, then you're ruining relationships. People are not able to get in contact with you. And now you're stressed out because you ruined a relationship because of something so small. So these are really easy, quick things that you could get automated out of your head, right? Getting that. And I keep stating around getting that freedom of your mental space, because when you have that mental capacity, then you can focus in on things that you really truly want to do, and that is what leads to better or more efficient productivity. Because a lot of our tasks that we do, we shouldn't be doing them, and or they don't need to be done, or they could be automated, and we get overwhelmed, and that decreases our productivity because now we're using so much energy. Something that maybe took an hour for you to do in the past is now taking 3 hours for you to do. So you're losing time, you're being less productive and getting a lot less done. So don't wait, automate. And you get to be more efficient, not just productive. And then lastly, I want to talk, I think it's the last one in this part. Pass the ball. So I like to say, don't be a ball hog. It takes a village. Outsourcing allows you to pass the ball and ensures that tasks are completed, just not by you. So automation, there's a lot of great things we can automate, but sometimes you need another person to do it. AI is trying to compete here, TBD on how that all works out. But having outsourcing some tasks. So some things that you might want to outsource that are, again, depending on your lifestyle, that would make a big difference in how you experience your days, experience your tasks, could be laundry, right? I personally know I hate doing laundry. I mean, it's something we all got to do, but between the washing it, then let's start at the start of the journey. Sorting it, time suck. Washing it, another time suck. And then folding it takes 2 to 3 weeks. uh and then if you have to iron, I have my kids have to wear uniform, so it's a process, and we might think, oh, it's just so quick, just throw in a load, but it adds up, and we don't really calculate how much time we're using a lot of these things, versus if you have, so maybe you don't have the time, but if you have the money, invest the money in a laundry service, and now you free back up your time to do other things. Same thing with grocery. Instacart has saved my life more times than I can count. I'm working on a project, I'm in flow state, but my kids are hungry. Do I go to the grocery store or do I order Instacart? I'm going to order Instacart, right? So there's a lot, or even, a food delivery, right? So there's a lot of services that you can exchange and outsource to someone else. So again, that's another exchange for I want to use my time to do this thing. Like I'm jamming. I'm writing like 25 posts right now. Am I going to stop that flow state to go to ShopRite for 30 minutes? Or cook for an hour and a half? No, I'm going to order, right? I'm going to have that delivered, outsource it for maybe $30, right? So from my time, that $30 is a super small piece of what I have to do. So outsourcing that. And then lastly, administrative tasks. And this could vary person to person. So if you want to be more personalized in your scheduling of emails, maybe have like a VA, virtual assistant do this for you, or a freelancer come in. You're trying to troubleshoot something, you have a help desk that you contact, right? So there's a lot of things that just really should not be on our task list, that being like having the mindset of I have to be super productive, or another big one is I do it better than so and so, right? I'm going to do it the best. Let go of that, because and I mentioned it earlier, there are multiple ways to get to the same end destination, right? No one is going to be like, did she buy her own bananas for her daughter today? Like, no one cares. Like, are my kids fed? Yeah, great. Is the email sent? Yeah, great. So accomplishing that task, it does not have to be done by you. So figure out what you can exchange, either it be the time, the money, or the energy, so that we could get back another resource in a different way. And a book that I love for that is Drop the Ball by Tiffany Dufu. So Achieving More by Doing Less. It's a great read. She's the founder of an organization called The Crew, which is like a women's network, but it's, she's done a lot of amazing work. And it helps you avoid burnout by passing the ball and passing tasks, whether it's by automation or outsourcing. And then we're going to say, share your work, right? Often we wait till our work is perfect before we share it with the world. Start sharing it now. Why are you waiting until the very last minute to say, okay, now it's, perfect. And we talked about this earlier. Share what you're working on. And nowadays, people want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see the end progress. And no one is expecting your day 1 or your day 10 to look like somebody else's day 400, year 10. And because we see oftentimes a lot of finished products on the market or on the internet or in different places, we think, oh, if I want to start this thing, it has to look like that when it comes out. That is not true. Sometimes it looks messy, and that's okay. You have to recognize where you are and just be okay with that phase. So that's a part of production, knowing that there will be different variations. Start sharing it as you go and build as you grow, because the world needs to know what you're working on. And if they don't know what you're working on, they unfortunately can't, truly support it. Now, some ways that you can share your work is celebrate with others, right? Having a launch party for a thing that you did, going out with friends, starting a blog so you can share it there, a blog, vlog, content channel, speak at events, share your knowledge, do workshops, presentations at school, right? So this is some ways that you can benefit internally from it. So this is part of like the profit phase, getting that internal benefit from the work that you're doing. So another resource, because I'm going to share all the books with y'all, is called Share Your Work by Austin Kleon. It's a cute little book and it has a bunch of illustrations, but it just kind of shows, it is a batch of examples of people that shared their work in progress. And sometimes the work in progress is what gets the more acknowledgements, the more recognition than the actual completed thing that you're doing. So enjoy the journey, share your work, and show people what you're working on. So, do one thing at a time, always make a plan, work smarter, right? Automate and outsource, pass the ball, and then share your work. And so some of the ways that you want to celebrate, so I mentioned some of the ways you want to celebrate. So that's going to be the profiting. So when I mentioned profiting, before I go here, because I want to give time for questions and we're coming up on the hour, I want to talk a little bit about burnout, right? So how do we recognize burnout is happening? Because when we get productive, we start accomplishing a lot. What happens next? We start doing too much sometimes. And I have been, I've been burnt out more times than I would like to admit. But now I got to hold on to it because I understood the system. So when things were happening to me, I was like, how can I understand the system behind it? Like, why is this happening? So what I realized is that oftentimes burnout starts in the body. You start feeling like a little neck ache, a little back ache, your head is hurting, your stomach is a little bubbly, and it's like, what is going on? Maybe it's gas, maybe I'm tired. Like you kind of excuse it and you pass it, and you're like, oh, nothing's happening. Then the second phase, it's in the mind. It's like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, why am I even doing this? This doesn't even make sense. So you start becoming mentally frustrated. You start becoming overwhelmed. So now your body is hurting, your brain is hurting, and things that you used to love to do, right? So the final phase is the heart. Things that you used to love doing. You're like, if you don't get away from me, if I ever have to see another marketing page, a landing page ever again, I'm going to fight someone, right? Your passions just become like, what in the world is happening? So the body starts going crazy first. Next, it's going to be your mind and then your heart. And that's when you're burnt out. That's when it's time to stop, take stock of what's happening, pivot, and make a change. So again, going back to what we started, don't wait for life to force you to make a change. Make that change consciously and on your own time. So if you're aware of, I'm feeling these bodily things that are happening inside of me, like I don't feel too good right now, what can I do about that? Start taking some action. If you are, your mind is going, you're like, I'm exhausted, take the rest you need, because don't exchange productivity or like accomplishing these goals for rest, because then when you get to the other side, you're not even going to be able to enjoy it, right? What's even the point of doing all this thing if you can't enjoy it, if you're too sick to enjoy it and have a good time and really embrace what you've accomplished? So the two pieces that I realized didn't come in here was so we talked about plan, purpose. So we started with purpose. So make sure you have your why. What's in it for you? Why do you want to do this thing? Then create a plan using your planners, your journals, your outlines, your calendars. Next, you want to go into production. So you want to either, write down your plan, then you want to outsource where you can, automate things where you can. The next phase after that was profit. So the profit phase ties directly back into the purpose. How do you benefit from this and how do you measure that benefit? So that's where the goals came in. Like, how do you measure that benefit up if you really got what you needed out of it? And profit doesn't have to be financial. If you were looking to feel good, right? Let's go back to the earlier example for volunteering at the homeless shelter. If you were looking to feel good, do I feel good after I did this thing? Did I get the benefit, which was the initial purpose of me doing the thing in the first place? Or it could be profit. I wanted to start a business to earn additional income. Now, after reevaluating my plan and the production work that I did, am I financially benefiting from this? How did I profit from this internally and or externally from the thing that I just did? Because again, profiting doesn't have to look like you're not being authentic in your work, but we have to have things that help us stay motivated, have a reason for us to continue to want to do that thing, to be interested in it, for us to have longevity in these things. And it also feeds back our mental states. Like, we feel good, that dopamine release, like I'm happy that I showed up and I did this thing. And then lastly, it was play. So play is all about celebration, right? How are you taking, either you could travel, get some rest, just really enjoying what you just did? Because I don't think we spend enough time and reflecting and enjoying the things that we accomplished. Like, we just check them off the list. Next thing, next thing, next thing. And we don't spend enough time to play, whether that's, taking a break and going to the park. As adults, when was the last time any one of us kind of just went out into the sun and said, I'm going to just sit here. I'm going to blow some bubbles, right? As children, play comes so naturally to us, right? Just having fun, watching a good TV show, laughing, and not feeling that, oh, there's something due at 5 o'clock, so I can't spend this 30 minutes watching a comedy special. But those things, playing, taking the step back to play, to enjoy what you've accomplished, gives you that renewed energy to go back out there and do it again. So this system has helped me get so much done in times that I didn't want to do anything else. So I understood why I wanted to do it. So the purpose of it, then I made a plan about it, pivoted when I needed to, did the work, showed up each time, went into production, evaluated how I benefited from this, what was my profit financially, internally, mentally, and then I took some time to play, right? Get away from all of it, experiment a bit. And then when it was the next thing that came up, go back to the beginning of the cycle. What's the purpose? Why am I going to do this thing ever again? And then I shared the tips about burnout, right? If you start feeling that emotion at any phase where it's like, the body starts to go, take some time away. And if you come back and it still is bubbling up, now your mind is not interested, you're not enjoying this anymore, you're disliking it, that's another cue. Take a step away. And then if you still come back and then the heart is like, I hate this, that means you're, hopefully it's not too late. Your body doesn't be like, all right, peace out. You're going to be laying down for the next 2 weeks. Good luck to you. Or we're going to give you a cold, right? You've ever gotten a cold out of nowhere and you realize it was right at the edge of this project that you've been working so hard to complete. And now you're sniffling. You can't even enjoy the fruits of your labor. And it's because your body said, listen, we tried to warn you. We sent the body first, we sent the mind next, we sent the heart, and you kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, guess what? We are clocking out. We'll see you in a few weeks. So give it, hydrate us, let us stay in that bed for a while, and then we'll see you in a few weeks. So that is my presentation here today. I'm going to open it up for some questions, but I'm going to just put it on my contact slide. So you can reach me at my website, Georgie-Ann Getton, but mostly on social, primarily Instagram and LinkedIn, and Threads. I'm on Threads too, Georgie-Ann Getton. Always happy to have a conversation. So I'm gonna just catch up on the chat to see whatever questions or comments anyone has. And oh yeah, also my YouTube channel. That's also a good place. Yeah, so thank you so much, Growclass, for having me. I'm just catching up on the chat.
Yeah, thank you. This was so great. See, we do have someone with their hand up, Mita. Would you like to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat?
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, nice to see you
It's been
again.
a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Georgie, thank you so much. It's not really a question. I just want to really acknowledge and appreciate the 360 view you have on these um, kind of business terms. I think I love the expansion of it, and it just makes so much more sense given, profit for a human being is much more than just filling a bank account or
Mhm.
um, productivity also involves like really wholesome rest and taking care of ourselves. So I love that you're calling those things out. And I just think it makes for a healthier productivity.
Thank you so much. And is anyone working on anything right now that they, are trying to get more productivity around? Happy to, we have a few minutes, troubleshoot that with you, think through some tools and recommendations. Happy to do that. So this is your time.
Sure. Hi. There's no one.
Hello.
Hi, this is Tawana. How are you? This was a great presentation. I always love to jump on things productivity wise because I'm always trying to figure out how to do things. And I do agree, multitasking is that of the devil. But I am working on a program that I want to launch, and there's, as you know, when you do that, it's a lot of moving pieces, and so I'm wondering, how would you go about? I mean, the only thing I can do is brain dump and take things out of my head. But do
Mhm.
you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, so getting it out of your head, and then what do you do after you do a brain dump? Do you, I'm gonna ask you that first, and then I'll tell you a suggestion of what you can do.
Then I kind of organize, like I'm like, oh, maybe this goes first. I should do this first and do this second, kind of thing.
All right, so that's exactly what I was gonna say. Organizing them, and then also not when you're organizing them, not just put them in order of like what you think should be first or second, but think about, is this something that I should do? Is it something that I can do? Is it something I want to do? So adding those filters to it, right? And then looking at the list. Okay, these are things that I want to do and should do. Okay, so maybe those are mines. I don't want to do, but need to do these things. Do I have a small budget, right? Hiring somebody on Fiverr, hiring somebody as a freelancer from Upwork, tapping into your network. Are there colleagues that do this thing and you can, there's various ways to work with people these days. You could do hiring them as a freelancer, hiring them for a contracted project. There are schools that have interns, right? I strongly believe everyone should be fairly compensated. But but then again, it's like, what's in it for them, right? Maybe the student wants to work on a project that is going to build their portfolio. So that's the way they're benefiting, right? Be reasonable.
Mhm.
Don't just like say, hey, build my whole
Absolutely.
company for me, right?
Absolutely.
But there are ways that both parties can be mutually benefited and successful if you outsource that task. And then, again, using the AI tools, there's a bunch of free or low price tools that can do a lot of the tasks that we think, I'm gonna just do it better. And I'm not saying that you think like this, but a lot of us is like, I'm gonna do it faster, or I don't have the time to explain this thing to somebody else of how to do it. So I'll add that little thing in there of documenting your work as much as possible. So even if you're gonna do a task, you don't have a virtual assistant yet, no problem. Turn on Zoom, turn on Loom. Now, if you have a paid Google Suite account, there is a recording option there. Canva. There are so many tools that you can do to do a screen recording, and record the steps of you doing it. Right. Video record it, audio record it, whatever it may be, so that we have documentation of how it's done. And when you do have budget, you can say, hey, this is what needs to be done. Give me a quote. You haven't also with that recording, you'll have an idea of how long the thing took. So that way you can
Mm.
estimate better. I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't account for. How long does something take? And I share this with people and it's a little funny, but I calculate almost everything. I know exactly how much time me and my kids need to from we wake up in order to be ready.
Mm.
And if we wake up at a certain time, I could tell you immediately if we're gonna be late, right? And it's like to the minute. So our calculation is it takes them 22 minutes to get ready in the morning times. They eat breakfast and stuff at school. So, you know, it's just like bathroom stuff, getting their uniforms on. It's the same outfit. And if we wake up past a certain time and we don't have that full 22 minutes before we need to leave the house, we are late. And and I say it as a joke, but knowing how much time something really takes, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do it later. It should take 30 minutes. Then you sit down to do it, and now it's been 90 minutes long. And now you're leading into other things that you were trying to do, or you feel overwhelmed, like, why is this thing not done yet? So whenever you're scheduling things, if however long you assume it's gonna be, if you haven't measured it yet, double it.
Okay.
Immediately double it. Oh, it's gonna take me a week, double it at minimum. And this is what you tell your clients, the people that you're working with, so that way you have wiggle room. Life happens. You know what I mean? Like, tomorrow you catch a cold, now you're not feeling well. You have a week to complete this thing. Now you're stressed out, you're feeling overwhelmed, and you still have to do the project. Oh, I told you 2 weeks. Now, if I'm out for this entire week, but it really does only take me a week to do it, I have 2 weeks. Like I have time. I have room for error. So build in as much room for error in everything that you have to do, whether it's personal or professional, because if you don't build in that room for error, then when the errors come up, because life is gonna life and you cannot control the majority of things in this world. The other day, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads went down. If somebody had a multi-million-dollar campaign that was launching that hour, imagine the panic, right? But if you have wiggle room, okay, we can launch it today or we can launch it in a week. Leave room for error of like things that we cannot even comprehend happening. And again, sometimes even with the room for error, they're going to happen anyway, but just know that it's just for that moment and things will change and things will get better. And it's just the duality is permanent. Duality is so permanent that it's you just got to accept it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And I see another hand, Ali.
Yes. Hi. This might be a good kind of follow-up question from that. This week, I have had a situation where I was going to launch some things and like send out emails launching things, and other people who I'm working on the project with who have the say of kind of like, yes, this can be published or not. We've had to push back deadlines quite a few days and shuffle things around. And so like I'm shuffling and that's fine and it's good. It's just like, what do you sort of say to yourself when that's happening? Like I built in those deadlines. I think it's more just the like kind of tenseness of having to change the plan. So I don't know if you have any like things you say to yourself or anything when the stuff is shifting around, and it's not like anybody's dying or losing a limb. It just feels like, this hasn't gone to plan, but it's really okay.
Yeah. So you start with that. Like it's really okay. And just something that I honestly do say out to myself, like, this is out of my control. I did everything that I could. And, I remember the other day, right? This is similar. I had to go somewhere and I ended up having to walk, and it was like a mile instead of like where my original plan, which was go straight home. And I was like walking, I was just like, oh, this sucks. This feels so bad. And I was like, literally out loud, I said, stop that. Why are you saying that? You're just taking a walk. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not bad. You're almost home. You will be fine. And so when you're feeling in those moments, try your best to call yourself out and redirect, right? This is a thing that they do with kids, they do with therapy. There's so many spaces and areas like redirect it, saying, I did what I needed to do. Everything looks good. We have more time now to make more changes, right? Focus on what is behind that feeling, and then slowly you kind of psych yourself out. What's something that's going around on the internet a lot these days is like Delulu is the Salulu, right? Being delusional. And these things are so cliche, but the annoying part is that they work. And once you start seeing that when you start telling yourself these things over and over again, and then they work, it's like your brain is like, how dare you like stress me out if it's all going to work out in the end. Think of a situation right now that you got so stressed out about, and you're just like, this is not going to work. I don't even know how I'm going to make it. Tomorrow is going to be a great day, and the rest of the year. And then it just magically, like, everything works out, and now you're annoyed that you're mad because you got so mad. You're trying to calm down, but you are past the point of like calming down. So what I tell myself, I'm like, listen, everything up until now that went bad has worked out. this is going to be one of them. Like, I have 100% of a track record of all my bad days worked out. You have the data, you have the proof. So you just have to really keep saying it to yourself. It's not gonna work all the time. It's okay to be sad here and there, but just try not to stay in it for too long and just recognize, like, redirect yourself and recognize what is good within the mess. Because there's always something good. And even in good things can be overwhelming and bad and weird too, right? It's very interesting. Again, I like to I'll dial it back in, right? There's this undeniable duality of life. There's good, there's bad. That's it. So if there's bad right now, good is going to come. If it's good right now, bad is going to come. And when you accept both, you don't have a problem when it's like feeling like it's the bad one, because you're like, just a part of it. Tomorrow will be different. 2 minutes from now will be different. And just like, I'm just going to hold out until something better happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome. I really appreciate your questions and just being here with you all today. And thank you so much for the lovely comments in the chat. Again, connect with me. I hang out mostly on Instagram and Threads. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there, but definitely, I'm happy to answer any questions people might have after this. But I really like to support and just share what I've learned with others so that way they can grow and develop as well.
Georgie-Ann, thank you so much for sharing your insight, expertise with us today. This was such a great session. Really appreciate the nod to burnout as well, like being mindful of that, because we all want to be so productive, but it's important to listen to your body, your mind, your heart. That was a really, really good framing. So I love that. All Georgie-Ann's links are in the chat. I will be sending out a replay email for everyone. So if you missed anything, you want to take more notes, you'll have it at your disposal. Thank you all for joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, friends. Take it easy. I'll see you in your inbox soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.